Today will be a day to remember for the rest of your life. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is excited to present the Heart of a Hall of Famer program connected by Today will be networks. With over 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 47 states and countries all over the world, sharing the message that football is more than a game and can teach Americans important life values like commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty.
But you have to make right decisions even when nobody's watching you.
Well, respect is not just given out. It's not handed out like a brochure. It's earned.
Today, you are presented with an opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more important than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. They didn't roll out the bed great. They put the work in, on the field, in the weight room, in the classroom, in their communities. They made themselves a Hall of Famer on and off the field.
Your feet can't take you where your mind's never been.
Because you can make it, but it's just gonna take a little hard work and some effort and the drive and determination.
And today, you will learn you can do the same thing they did. You don't have to have a gold jacket or a bronze bust to make a difference in the lives of others. It's your decision whether you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
If attitudes are contagious, is your attitude worth catching?
It's integrity as well, because when you decide to pursue something and you don't quit, that says a lot about you.
Commitment to excellence. We can all aspire to be the best.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, the Heart of a Hall of Famer program, connected by Extreme Networks.
The greatest thing about football is that it's a team sport. In order for any of us to achieve anything that we did out on the football field, we had to depend on 10 other guys. And I know out there in the audience, there are a lot of my teammates that are here today and sharing in this moment with me, but also sharing in that moment that's going to happen on Monday night when those orange helmets come back on the football field. And anytime you have a gathering of people, there is a reason and a cause for celebration. And today, we have that cause because in 1999, there's football back on the lakefront. And as the song say, as the song that I've been kind of playing in my head for the last 3 or 4 hours, I just want to share with you. Here we go again. Thank you.
All right, with that, I'd like to welcome everybody here to Columbus North High School in Columbus, Indiana, for the latest installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame series, Heart of a Hall of Famer, connected by Extreme Networks. My name is Jake Ray. I'm the Youth and Education Manager at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, and I am super excited to be here today as we truly kick off the newest NFL season. You know, the Super Bowl was not too many weeks ago. So we ended last year and we're already starting this season off here with the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. So I'm super excited to be here today, talk a little football, and truly hear what it's like in the front office from a Hall of Fame football player and truly a great man about the game of football. Before we get started, though, a little bit about us at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's our mission to honor the greatest of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty, all of which make this guy who's going to be sitting right here a Hall of Fame football player, but it also made him a great executive. It made him a great man and truly a great person. And it can make you guys a great student, great athlete, great person in your community as well. And you'll be surprised how many times these values continue to pop up throughout the program today. Before we do get started, though, I do have some thank yous I'd like to pass out first and foremost. I already mentioned them. I'd like to thank our great partners at Extreme Networks for providing not only us at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but students truly all over the country the opportunity to take part in this program. Obviously, we've got an awesome group of students in front of us here at Columbus North. You guys are going to see all the great students we have connected in from the West Coast to the East Coast of all different ages and all different backgrounds. So you're going to be able to see all these different students today. So Extreme Networks, thank you so much for providing us this opportunity. Secondly, teachers, administrators, educators, professors, anybody that allowed their students to participate in this program today, thank you so much for allowing us to be a small part of your students' learning experience. And a special shout out to all the staff here at Columbus North, Mr. Lewis, the athletic director, who helped set everything up today and making sure this program went off in here. And then lastly, have to thank the students. Without you guys, this program doesn't take place. I always joke that, I got all these questions I'm ready to ask, but nobody wants to hear me talk for now. This is the opportunity for you guys to ask questions to a Hall of Famer. You don't get that opportunity that many times. So we want to tell you that this is an awesome opportunity, and thank you for being a part of it. No matter where you're watching us today, whether you're here in our live audience, you're watching us on Zoom connected in, or you're even watching the live stream on YouTube, go ahead. If you're taking pictures, taking video, I know you're going to, make sure you tag at Pro Football HOF, tag at Extreme Networks, and use the hashtag HOF values, and your post just might be reshared. So without further ado, like I said, nobody wants to hear me talk the entire time. I'd like to please welcome to the stage a Hall of Fame tight end for the Cleveland Browns, a current executive with the Baltimore Ravens. And one of the reasons we're doing this program here today is because he's in town working at the NFL Combine. Please give a big round of applause for Hall of Famer Ozzie Newsome. Yeah, microphone's in the chair there. All right. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank you. I know you got a busy week, so I'd like to thank you for taking some time to make the trip down here for the program today.
Well, good. Thanks for the invitation. I'm really looking forward to having a nice conversation with all of you students today. Just to let you know how my day has begun, we're at the Combine now, and we got over 300 athletes, and probably every general manager, every head coach. We're all in Indy right now, and our interviews started at 8 o'clock. They run for like 20 minutes, and we interviewed a kid from USC this morning, and then we had 2 other kids. So, and then we'll go back tonight about 8 o'clock, and we got 8 more interviews, and then starting tomorrow, it'll all be on the NFL Network when they start to go out on the field.
It's a pretty busy week.
Yes, it is. It's an important week for us because it's the opportunity for us to get face-to-face with the players. But probably the most important thing that we get is we get a chance to do the physical on the players. If it wasn't for the Combine, then you would have a player, say Bryce Young, or whoever would have to fly to 15 or 20 different teams just to take a physical. But because we have the Combine, everybody comes in, all our team doctors are here, and the other 31 team doctors are here. We get a chance to, do MRIs and x-rays and all of that. So we get the medical, the on-field stuff is okay. The interviews are okay, but the medical is the most important thing.
Awesome. And we'll get into all the awesome stuff that you handle, being in the front office, and your view is that as not only a legend of the game, but a Hall of Famer as well, seeing the full process from beginning to end. But I want to dive in a little bit about those values we talked about: commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty. Looking at your football career, both, in the front office and as a Hall of Fame tight end, I know we got a lot of Ohio schools connected in today.
Yes.
So Cleveland, the Cleveland Browns are well represented. Obviously, if you didn't see, just announced yesterday, Cleveland Browns will be taking on the New York Jets in the Hall of Fame game. Yes. Super excited to welcome both those organizations to Canton to kick off the NFL season. But those 5 values, is there one that sticks out or is more predominant in your life that helps you become the person you are today?
I think commitment. And it starts with your parents. And, they make a commitment to you to try to provide, to do as much as they can for you, and you have to in turn make a commitment to them that you're going to try to be the best young man or young woman that you can be. But a commitment, it continues to grow as you grow and mature as a person, because you go from that to, I'm gonna commit to go to this junior high school, and then I'm gonna commit to go to this high school. And we see a lot now of young people that they attend 3 different high schools, but they're not showing a lack of commitment when they decide to go to 3 different high schools. And then you go from that to you make a commitment to go to a university, and you see guys change their mind. So it was as we were talking today with these young players is that we were interviewing, that we look forward to someone that when they come into Baltimore, that are they going to be committed to the values that we have, do the work that they need to do in order to help us to achieve what we need to achieve. So commitment is very important.
Now, you obviously say that, you look at the game from a game perspective as commitment, but you did a good job there of saying, it's not just a football term. You talked about life in your family in high school and then eventually in the NFL. So was there a moment from your career where you really saw that, to where the life lessons you learned from the game of football helped you in the community, in your family, in your personal life? And how can students here take the values that they're learning from sports? And if they don't play sports, it's okay. We want them to,
Yep.
but if they don't, that's okay, because there's so many things you can learn from all the different things that you're a part of.
Well, with commitment comes trust. And I can give you one short story and I go, well, you really didn't commit. Well, when I was getting recruited out of high school, and there's 2 major colleges in Alabama, University of Alabama and the University of Auburn. And I initially committed to go to the University of Auburn. And I did it in my own mind for all the wrong reasons. And I committed on a Wednesday, and the signing date was on that Saturday. Well, I had an opportunity to spend more time with the coaches from Alabama, and I decided that I really wanted to go to Alabama and that I was going to Auburn for all the wrong reasons. And so I had to go home and to tell my parents that. And it was not a great conversation with my parents, because they go, wait a minute, no, you made a commitment that you were going to do something, now you're walking away from that. So it wasn't not a good night for me, but it ended up being one of the best decisions that I've made in my life.
And before we dive into our student questions, I want to pivot off that a little bit. You talked about playing at the University of Alabama, and everybody here knows the success that the Crimson Tide have had over the past decade plus. But you played for somebody. His name was Paul Bear Bryant.
Yep.
One of the greatest college football coaches of all time. What was the experience like playing for a coach like that?
Well, again, let's go with the consistency of his message. From the time I was a freshman to the time I was a senior. And number one is say, it's the team, the team, the team. No one was bigger than the team. The other thing that he talked about is always show your class. So those things resonated with me and my other teammates while we were at the university. And those are some of the same things that I have utilized through my playing career and my post-playing career with the Ravens and the Browns.
One of the greatest college coaches of all time. And I'm sure you were able to take, but we all everybody, I was answering some questions for a college student the other day, and he asked me who was some of the most influential people in my life. And it was parents and then high school football coach.
Yes.
So how do coaches, no matter what sport they're in, but play a role in shaping those young individuals?
Well, it does, because, what it does as a coach with young athletes, and me being a coach, you're asking someone to commit to be a team, which means now I have to give up some of my selfishness to become a part of a team. An offensive lineman, a quarterback. You take a quarterback, you take Bryce Young, you take the quarterbacks that are over at the combine right now. They cannot be a success if it's not for the offensive line, if it's not for the receiver, if it's not for the running back. So there is with that team aspect of all of that is so important. And so that's what I've been able to take away from that and been able to utilize, and hopefully I can get it to where you all can understand that and utilize it in your lives.
Awesome. All right. With that, we're going to take our first question. We're going to start with the students right here at Columbus North. So as I mentioned before, whoever shoots their hands up first for the question, we got a lot of kids in here. Do not be shy. We got a bunch of shy kids.
And normally,
Anybody got a question?
that first person. Once you get that first person, then we get on a roll.
It's going to be a really boring program if we just sit here and wait for a question the entire time. Anybody? Question. All right.
Good.
There we go. Go ahead and stand up.
How you doing?
Say hello. Can you hear me?
What was some of the reasons why that I just first decided to go to Auburn versus and then switch? Well, everything about that was Auburn was selling me was individual stuff. You know, I was going to become the next great receiver at the University of Auburn. I was going to be able to have all of these catches and all of these yards. It wasn't any talking about winning SEC championship or winning national championship and being a part of a winner. So at Alabama, nothing was talked about other than if you come to Alabama, you got a chance to go and play for a national championship and win the SEC championship. It wasn't about how many stats. I went to Alabama, played in a wishbone offense where we didn't throw the ball for probably 10 times a game. So, you know, at that point, you're not looking for statistics, you're looking for a chance to play and win. So that was ended up being the difference. Good question.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. We're going to go out to one of our schools now. As we mentioned before, we've got schools from all over the country connected in. So we're going to go back home, well, to my home, to Ohio for our first school. We've got Maple Heights, ECAC up there with a question. So go ahead and have your students step up, state their name, the grade that they're in, and then go ahead and ask their question.
How you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Nate. I go to Maple Heights EK. I'm in 9th grade. How important do you feel accountability is on and off the field?
The question, I don't know if you heard it, is how important is accountability? Well, you cannot be a success without being held accountable. We are accountable. I'm accountable to my wife. I'm accountable to my kids. I'm accountable to the scouts that we have in Baltimore. But number one, I was accountable to the other players that I play with. And that accountability goes is that as a single person, you go out there and do your very best because other people is accounting on you to do that. So therefore, they are going to be doing their best too. So accountability is huge. And we utilize that a lot in Baltimore when we're dealing with our players. Is, you know, you have to have accountability for the good that you do and the bad that you do. And the mistakes that you're making, you know, be accountable for it. You know, whether, okay, I did it, own up to it and move on to the next step. But accountability is huge. Thanks for the question. Very good question.
Yes, awesome question. As we mentioned, now that we have all these schools that are interactive today, we also have some folks watching us on the YouTube stream, as well as groups who are just connected in as view only on Zoom. We've got a question from one of those students. This is a 6th grader from Brooke Smith in Texas.
Okay.
They wanted to know, simple question, what does it feel like to be a Hall of Famer?
Unbelievable. You know, you start off as a high school kid and you're playing the game for the fun of the game. And yeah, you want to win championships in high school, which I did. And then you go to college and you have some success and you get lucky enough to play in the National Football League. And then you play in the National Football League and you have some success. But, you know, it's millions and millions of young players or players that have played in the National Football League. And I think we're at 300 right now is the number.
371.
371 are the ones that have been selected to. So it's a very unique family. And I waited 3 years. I was in my 3 years of eligibility before I got that call on that Saturday. And, you know, it's one of the, I've had some great moments in my life. That was one of the greatest moments when I got that call to say I was being elected into the National Football League Hall of Fame.
We talked about those values earlier, one of them being respect. And I always think it's so cool when all the Hall of Famers get around each other because, not only are they, they're jabbing back and forth, talking some smack, like we're known to, but there's such a high level of respect when a guy like Jim Brown walks in the room. And I always remember a great example is, Warren Sapp, a defensive end from the early 2000s, and Jim Brown, a running back from the 50s and 60s. When he walks, the level of respect is crazy. I don't think there's anything I've seen like it. To be a part of that, and what is that level of respect like in the room when it's just Hall of Famers?
It's undescribable. I mean, there's a level of respect that you all have for each other, but when we get in, we have a luncheon where it's just for Hall of Famers only. And we get there, you have to realize that some of the guys in that room were my heroes, that I would be out on the field trying to emulate that. I want to be like Raymond Barrio. I want to be like Jim. I want to be like Leroy Kelly. Those were my heroes growing up. Now I'm sitting in the same room with those guys, but it also speaks to there's a certain level of respect and dedication and accountability that we all had to have to be able to achieve to get to this level.
All right, we're gonna go back to our remote schools now for another question. I think everybody's from Ohio. So we got some awesome representation from Ohio here. So we're gonna go to Sandusky Intermediate School up there in Northwest Ohio, Cedar Point.
Yep.
For our next question. So our folks there at Sandusky, go ahead and step up to the mic, unmute, state your name, the grade you're in, and then go ahead with your question.
My name is
Go ahead and say that a little bit louder for us. Mr. Chris, can you repeat that for us? Why do you love football?
Well, hey, thanks for wearing my jersey. Y'all don't know that. My jersey, but thanks for wearing that. Well, football, if you take baseball, which is a great sport, which I played, if you got a great pitcher, then he probably can strike out 60 or 70% of the other team's player. And if you got one guy that can hit a couple of home runs, then, two guys can probably win a game in baseball. In basketball, you got five. If you got a Michael Jordan, or you got a Kobe, or you got a LeBron James on your team, then you probably got a chance to win some games. In football, it takes all of us. There's a team aspect of people depending on each other that, affords you the opportunity and you carry that not from the field, but you carry it to your families, where I'm depending on my wife and my wife is depending on us and my brothers and sisters. So there's accountability of the team aspect of football that's a little bit different, because in baseball, if you're a really good pitcher, you're going to have some success. In basketball, if you're LeBron or Michael Jordan or some of them, you're going to have some success. In football, if you want to be a great player, you better, you got those other 10 guys that you need to depend on to be able to do it. So football is the ultimate team sport in my mind.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome to hear how that plays out. And, you talk about it being the ultimate team sport, and, you played for the Browns, and obviously, you've done a lot of front office work in the NFL as well. But you're on a different team now. You're on the Hall of Fame team. And, we thought, what better way to showcase that Hall of Fame team and to showcase what we are about at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, because at our core, we're a museum. We part of our mission is to honor the greatest of the game and to preserve their history of the game of football. So that's what we do at the Hall of Fame. So we thought, what better way to showcase that than go live to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, to our museum, to our Hall of Fame gallery, which is probably the most popular room in the Hall of Fame. And we've got Jerry Shockey, the Director of Youth and Education, there in front of something that probably looks oddly familiar to you. So, Jerry, whenever you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Thank you, Jake. And thank you, Mr. Newsome, for being here. And I tell you what, that last bit that he shared there, that's near and dear to our heart, because we believe that football is the ultimate team sport. It's a group of people of different shapes and sizes and colors and skills, abilities, and giftings. They come together in love and unity in pursuit of one common goal. And there's just no sport where you have that many skill sets and abilities and body types and shapes that have to work together. There's no sport that's like that. And one person cannot dominate this sport. Everybody needs each other, which is a great recipe for being successful at anything in life. And so I'm excited here because the ultimate example of success in the game of football is being enshrined here in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I'm joined by Ozzie's Bucks here, right up here. And so I want to give students a quick idea, though, how elite it is to be in the Hall of Fame. So think about this just for a second. Since the game has been played all throughout history, there have been roughly about 300 million people that have played it at all different levels. On the college level, it's like 4 or 5 million. Professional level, there's been about 30,000 that have been paid to play, coach, officiate, and administrate the game. There are only 371 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So you get an idea of just how elite it is to be enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And Mr. Newsome, I want to ask you this question. I mean, you've been enshrined in the Hall of Fame. You've been at the top level with the Ravens. I mean, just all this success. How do you stay humble in all that? And still, just realize that, like, man, I've been blessed, and being able to do these things. So what keeps you humble? What keeps you grounded in the midst of all the success you've had in your career?
Well, number one, I have an appreciation for all the people that have been a big part of my life. Going back to Little League Baseball, where, those guys that I played with then and the friendships that I have right now from that. The other aspect of it is my parents. I think my mother was probably one of the most humble person, but is the most humble person that I've known. And then you go to the University of Alabama, where, it's all about the team and we all, working together as one. But, the one thing about being humble, the minute that you allow yourself to think that you are above, then it's very easy to get knocked off of that pedestal. So humility goes a long ways, and thank you for that question.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Newsome. Thank you to all the students that are tuning in from across the country, but I know we have a lot of students here in Ohio that are connected and that we're really excited to connect with you here today. So, Jake, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for that look into the Hall of Fame museum there. And, he talked about how tough it is to make it to the Hall of Fame. So not only did, the Hall of Fame just announced the Hall of Fame game, but right down to the Super Bowl, we announced our class of 2023 with the likes of, one of the big reasons the Jets and the Browns are playing Joe Thomas, Darrelle Revis, Joe Klecko, and many others. They got the knock on the door from one of the fellow Hall of Famers. You received the call. When you hung up from that call, what was that moment like? Was there somebody that you celebrated with? Who was the first Hall of Famer to call and congratulate you? What was that moment right after you found out I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame?
Well, what I did is I went to work that Saturday.
They didn't give you the day off?
No? I could have. I needed a distraction. And I think my son was 5 years old. And I asked him to go with me. Will you go to work with me today? And I was thinking I was watching tape. I was watching tape, but I wasn't really watching tape because I was so nervous about it. And you're sitting there and the announcement came over TV. And so I'm there with him and he's doing his best not to be a distraction for me, but I wanted him to be a distraction. And so they go through the names and they're doing it alphabetical. And Eric Dickerson goes. And I forget the other one went. And then they got to the ends and they called my name. And I can't describe that feeling. And my son looked at me and he saw something that was different about me. And he goes, "What's wrong, Dad?" And I said, I was just elected into the Football Hall of Fame. And thankful there were some other scouts that was working there that weekend that came in and said, "Hey, Michael," that's my son, "come go with me." So they took Michael out and they took him down to an area where he could shoot some hoop. And the phone just started ringing. And for the next 2 or 3 hours, I was saying, "Thank you for your call," trying to set up different interviews with different newspapers. from my hometown, from my college, from Cleveland. So that next 3 hours was just, it was busy, but that was the best 3 hours of my life.
I bet it was awesome. All right, we got some another awesome students connected in with us here. So we're going to go to Norwalk School for our next question. So folks there at Norwalk, go ahead and unmute your microphone, have your students step up and state their name and go ahead with their question. Go ahead and mute your microphone. And if you guys want to go ahead and throw that question there into the chat function, we'll make sure to get that asked. But want to move on here. We got some other awesome questions coming in. This is Jack from Strongsville Middle School. Wants to know the difference between playing for the Browns, so having your football career, and then your front office career. What were some of the differences, but then some of the similarities as well?
Well, as a player, you can control how you play. By your preparation, whether it's, in the weight room, whether it's on the treadmill running, studying film, you have some control over what you do on any given Sunday, Monday, or Thursday, whenever we play. When you become the GM, you have no control. I get a chance to pick Lamar or Ray Lewis or Jonathan Ogden or Ed Reed, but I have no control over how they play on Sundays or Mondays. So as a GM, hopefully you put together some characteristics of what you think a player should be able to live to, and hopefully that would help them to be able to go out there and perform on a Saturday or Sunday, but also to prepare themselves during the week. I sat there on a Sunday, and I'm no different than you are. I'm just watching, and do I get excited? Yes, I do, but I have no control. As a player, you have some control.
All right, we're gonna go to our next school for our questions. So we're gonna go to North Ridgeville High School for our next question. So folks there at North Ridgeville, go ahead and unmute your microphone. Students, state your name, the grade, and then go ahead with your question.
Hi, my name is Sean, and I'm from North Ridgeville Academic Center in Ohio. Why did you pick the number 82?
Okay, I wore number 80 in high school. And when I went to the University of Alabama and I went to my locker, number 82 was in there. And I think what happened is we had another African-American that had played. He was the first African-American to sign a scholarship to go to the University of Alabama. And he wore number 80. And I don't think Coach Bryant wanted me to have that number because of that. So I ended up with number 82, and I carried that from Alabama into to Cleveland.
Awesome, great question. Always love to hear those stories. Some people have these awesome stories. Some people just showed up and it was the number I had.
Yep.
I got another question here. This is from Canton South Middle School. So we're sticking to Northeast Ohio. Biggest piece of advice we want to give somebody trying to do the same things you did. So we'll say, maybe not everybody wants to be a GM or a player in the NFL, but they have some goal they want to reach. Biggest piece of advice to get to that goal.
Get your education. We got 300 something guys that over at the combine right now. Maybe 100 may play long enough in the National Football League to get a pension, and it takes 3 years and 3 games. So they'll get filtered out. But the education that you get, that you are getting right now, you can utilize that for the rest of your life. So get your education and let your education be one of the most important things that you believe in.
No, I'm sure teachers have told students in here and all over the country that a million times, but I think it means a little something more coming from a Hall of Famer.
After seeing year in and year out, guys that started off like you young men and you young women, and to see their careers come to an end so soon because of injuries or whatever, but knowing that they can go back and utilize that education that they got to be able to have a successful life going forward. I've seen it. I got friends that, that was just in school, just to be in school, just to play sports, but they got their degrees in both high school and college. And now when I see them, they're so appreciative. You know what? I'm glad I went to school. I'm glad I got that degree, because right now it's really paying dividends for me.
You know, flash forward a little bit here to your career in Cleveland. We obviously know, and I mean you and I, know how crazy the dog pound is and how crazy the Browns fan base is, in a good way. Playing for a fan base like that as a player, how important was that for you? And what was like there to run out of the tunnel every Sunday knowing you were going to have a full stadium of support?
Well, when I got to Cleveland, that had some tough years. And so that's why they ended up having 2 first-round picks, myself and Clay Matthews. But to watch the city turn, to Cleveland had been one of the top franchises in professional sports, when Jimmy and Frank Ryan and all those guys played. But it went on some tough times. And so came in and I became a part of the turnaround. And those fans, and my best friend, Hanford Dixon, I was just with him this weekend. He started the dog. He started roofing, and he and Minifield. And it was unbelievable. I mean, to be able to go into that old stadium, and where there was no hot water to take showers sometimes, but to see those fans, how rabid they was. And you're talking about having to play against Pittsburgh and Cincinnati and all of those. So unbelievable. Cleveland Browns got some great fans.
And I think, obviously we've seen, the turnaround start to happen a little bit here, and the fans don't go away. They're there. I was there on Christmas Eve when it was 2 degrees, full state. Well, not a full stadium, but a lot more full than you would think of on a national holiday when it was that cold. Some of the most dedicated, loyal fans there are.
Well, I played in a game there in the playoffs against the Raiders, where the chill was a -25. And the stadium was packed and rocking, so, unbelievable fans in Northeast Ohio, unbelievable.
All right, we got one last school we want to get to here that's connected in. We're going to go to Tusky Valley for our next question. So Mr. Goodwin, your class there, go ahead and unmute your microphone. Have your students state their name, the grade that they're in, and then go ahead with their question.
Hi, I'm Katie Powell. I go to Tusky Valley and I'm an 8th grader at Tusky Valley Middle School. My question is, what character qualities do you believe it takes to be successful in all areas of life?
What's the question?
What type of character qualities do you see to be successful in all areas of your life?
Number one is you have to be willing to work. You have to have appreciation for other people. And I think deep down inside, and I believe this, that you have to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. If you got a relationship with Jesus Christ, then he will set a pattern for you. It may not be what you want in life, but you will be able to have an enjoyment for what he wants you to do.
All right, got another question coming in from one of our remote groups. This is from Strawn Elementary in Alabama.
Oh.
And obviously they want to know and if you could just sum up maybe one phrase, one key item, what was one thing you took away from playing from Coach Bear Bryant?
I guess the biggest thing is to always show your class. I mean, you're going to be up against some opposition, some things that not going your way, but you can always put a smile on and show your class. You don't have to act out in life, but you can always show your class.
Awesome. So, we talked a little bit about your career. For those of you who don't know, Hall of Famer at tight end playing for the Cleveland Browns. But after your football career, obviously there's a transition that takes place. A lot of people go into coaching, media, they just retire to the farm, take their time off. You went to the front office for the Browns and then ultimately becoming the GM for the Baltimore Ravens. the first African-American GM in the entire NFL history. What is it like that to have that attached to you? Not only Ozzie Newsome Hall of Famer, but Ozzie Newsome, the first African-American GM in NFL history.
Well, it never really dawned on me when it happened, the significance of it. But I was on a radio show with the great John Thompson, who coached at Georgetown for a lot of years. And he made the statement, he said, now that you've become the first African-American to become a GM, that other African-American can inspire to do that. And that's what it resonated to me, that the barrier had been broken. And so now young kids, these young African-Americans that are here today, can inspire to become a GM because I was able to break that barrier down.
And obviously, you know, there are struggles that come with that, but how are you able to persevere through that? It wasn't, or wasn't anything, it was just, you know, now I'm the GM.
No, I was fortunate enough to have good people around me. When we left Cleveland and went to Baltimore, Bill Belichick was the head coach. And I don't know if you all know who Bill Belichick is, probably the greatest football coach of all time. He was the head coach. And we had 4 other guys that became head coaches, one of which is Nick Saban. Kirk Ferentz was at Iowa. Pat Hill went to Fresno State. And we had 5 other guys, including myself, that became GM. So we had one heck of a staff with that. Well, I was able to, since I worked with all of those guys, when we left from Cleveland to go to Baltimore, all of those guys came with me. So they were a part of my team. I had worked alongside those guys. So just having the title of GM did not change my relationship with those guys and the respect that I had. So I was a part of a good team, and that good team helped me to make that transition.
You know, obviously being a GM of a team comes with a lot of different responsibilities than your player, as you talked about earlier. But one of those biggest responsibilities is why you're in town here, the NFL Combine. So first question about the Combine before we dive into today's world. How much has it changed since you were a scout with the Browns in '91 to where you're at today?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the medical information that we are able to achieve, to gather. Now with MRIs, now with X-rays, I mean, to be able to drill down and get the great information from a medical standpoint is huge. So when we leave here and we get the report in a couple of weeks, we will know any and everything about every player that came to the Combine from a medical standpoint. I think the other biggest thing now is it's a TV production. I mean, you'll be able to sit on this weekend and watch guys run the 40 and do high jump and do drills. So, you know, it went from just being a trial for GMs and head coaches to now it has a national audience, and they'll probably have about 10 or 15,000 fans that'll be in Lucas Oil sitting there watching those guys. So like everything else, TV's gotten involved, and once TV gets involved, it grows.
You know, as a GM, you mentioned, you know, earlier when we started, you know, the medical side of things is the kind of things that you really pull from this. So, you know, looking at preparation as we head into April, as the draft rolls around, what information is important to you that you're pulling from the Combine? You know, everybody's going to want to see how fast does this guy run? How many bench reps did he do? But at the core of it, what is one thing? Because we know on-field performance is obviously super important, but there's also that character side, that off the field that you're looking for, because you want high quality character guys on your team. What are you all pulling from this Combine that will eventually help you lead into the NFL draft?
Well, our scouts and the scouts for the other 30 would do a great job of gathering information during the fall. And with that information, when we assess it, there's always some holes there. So what we're able to do between now and April is to be able to get answers to the holes that our scouts that they have. But the biggest thing I think all 31 teams, or our 32 teams, 31 other teams are looking for, they want to look for someone that's going to be a good player and be a good teammate. You know what? And then be a good citizen in whatever city that they go to play in. Those are the 3 things that we, all 32 teams, look for. when we're talking about players, where you're talking about an offensive lineman, a defensive back, or a quarterback.
All right, and without giving away the secret sauce, without giving away the strategy of the Ravens this year, can you give us some players that you got your eye on that might look to make a huge impact this week?
I'm looking at all 300 because you just don't know. We're picking, I think, 23. So we may be in love with a guy, and then, one of my buddies that's a GM from the other team takes it. So we have to be prepared for all of the players. Do we have certain positions that we're looking for? Sure, but I can't say that because this is public, and I don't want those other 31 GMs to have some idea who we might pick.
And we definitely don't want that either.
Yeah.
But it goes to show that, obviously there's the big names. You got obviously all the quarterbacks,
Yes.
the running backs, receivers, DBs, ends. But it truly is, it's not a 1-round draft. There are 7 rounds.
Yes.
There's a good chance all 300 of these players are going to hear their name called. So you do have to be prepared, and it goes into that preparation, which I'm sure you were able to take some of that preparation skill away from being a Hall of Fame football player.
Yeah, it is. And then the other aspect that, there's a lot of players that don't get drafted that was signed after the draft as undrafted college free agents that will have long careers. Guys that are in the Hall of Fame did not get drafted, was not lucky enough to get drafted, but still had a career that was worthy of them getting elected to the Hall of Fame.
Awesome. All right. We got time here for a couple more questions. So we got some awesome questions coming in from our virtual audience here. This is from Madison Middle School, from Sophia. They want to know, what events in your life do you believe shaped the man you are today?
Well, I think, number one, when I was growing up in the state of Alabama, I lived through integration. My first 4 years, I had to go to a predominantly Black school. I could not attend a white school, and that changed. But I saw the transformation of America through my attendance in high school, being able to leave an all-Black school, to go to an all-white school, and then they combined the 2 schools. So I think being able to have enough courage to go and interact and become friends with everyone really helped me in my life.
Another question here is from Beacon Elementary. They want to know, what are things students can do right now at a young age to prepare themselves for success later in life?
Get your education. I'm gonna stay on the education thing. Get your education. I'm all about respecting others and other spaces. And Coach Bryant also said this. He said, can you work to get 10% better every day? If I was to ask all of you students out here, is there something that you can do today? You just want to get 10% better at that every day, or something else different every day, then you have a chance to be a success. Don't get complacent. Strive to get a little bit better every day.
Another question coming in here. This is from Perry Elementary. This is their 4th grade class. They want to know, really tough one, was it scary to play in the NFL?
Intimidating, yes. We would have other players that had played at university that would come back at the end of the season. You would talk to them and you go, how is it? And they would give you some ideas of what you do. And you knew how good those players was, then you started to think, well, maybe I have a chance. But there's a healthy respect for going into the National Football League because you're playing with and against the very best.
So looking back on your career, it's a question we like to ask every time we do this program. What was your welcome to the NFL moment? When did you realize, like, all right, it's a little bit different here than it was in college?
We were playing the Steelers, and on that defense, they probably got 5 or 6 Hall of Famers right now. And I was going down the middle of the field, and Brian threw the ball, Brian Sight, and I made the catch. And I got sandwiched between Donnie Shell and Mike Wagner. And I thought it was lights out. It wasn't. In today's time, I probably would have been evaluated for having a concussion. But at that point, I realized I'm not playing with boys anymore. I mean, these are men out here. I did hold on to the ball. I did make the catch.
Was there anybody else that your current teammates with now at the Hall of Fame that you remember lining up for, playing in an All-Star game with, that would you were a little bit starstruck just because you were sharing the same field as them?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, anytime I'm there, I mean, Jack Ham for the Steelers, he would line up right across from me and it would be a battle. Robert Brazile, Jack Lambert, Donnie, I mentioned Donnie Shell. But then there was some of the offensive guys that I played with, James Lofton, Earl Campbell, you know, getting to know all of those guys and being able to talk and communicate with them and find out different ways that how they were helping themselves out. That's another good part of being involved in a team sport is your ability to be able to have conversation with some of the other players.
I got a couple more questions here. Another one just came in. Obviously, you mentioned the Steelers, and I don't know if the folks here, I assume we're all Colts fans, have your own rivalries, but obviously the Browns-Steelers rivalry, especially today, is one of the big ones. So, you know, you had Auburn, Alabama in college. Yep. You've got Browns-Steelers during your playing career, and now you working for the Ravens, you have the whole AFC North as rivals.
Exactly.
That's played a huge part in your career. What does it feel like to be a part of so many of these great rivalries?
It makes football fun. I mean, I sat next to the head coach when we're driving into Pittsburgh. You're getting off the plane, driving in, or driving into Cleveland, or driving into Cincinnati. And we got stories, you know. But the best ride is when you win the game and you driving out of those stadiums, going back to the airport. And we played the New Orleans Saints this year on a Monday night. And we got on the bus. And coach is always the last one to get on the bus. And he turned to everybody and he goes, I would say this is the greatest ride I've ever had, but I can't say that because that's where we won the Super Bowl at. And that was the greatest ride that we've all had when we left the Super Bowl in New Orleans going to the airport.
You know, bringing up the Super Bowl, you know, I was looking at a picture the other day of you hoisting the Lombardi. What was that moment like to stand on the stage, confetti raining down for you to hoist that Lombardi trophy up as a Super Bowl champion executive?
Really special because as a player in the National Football League, I never made it to the Super Bowl. We lost in the AFC Championship game 3 times to the Denver Broncos, John Elway. So getting that opportunity, and I don't know what it would have felt like as a player, but it couldn't have felt any better than what it did when we were standing there. It's nothing like standing there and holding that trophy saying, we are the world champions. We got nothing else to do to prove that we are the world champions.
All right, we just got a question in from Norwalk who were having the mic issue, so I want to make sure to get that in here. And they want to know, was it hard to commit to your dream all the time? So, you know, you have a dream as a college player to make it in the NFL. Check that box. Be an NFL star. Check that box. Hall of Famer. Check that box. Super Bowl. You know, you checked a lot of boxes along your career. How is it important to you to continue to strive every day when you've been able to achieve so much success?
Well, I had the conversation today. I saw a young man that played for us in Cleveland, who's now a real good receiver coach in the National Football. I think he's with the Vikings right now. And I saw him and I go, hey man, when are you going home? Which means, when are you going to retire? And he goes, I want to win one more. And I said, that's true, and so do I. You know what? That desire to get back, to be able to hold that trophy, it makes it real easy to get up in the morning and go to work. It does for me.
Awesome. All right, as we wrap up today, again, I first want to say thank you so much for giving time out of your busy schedule. We know this week is we don't want to call it your Super Bowl week, but it's a pretty big week for you.
It's a big part of it. Yes.
To hopefully lead to a Super Bowl. Yep. Last thing we want to ask you here before we wrap up. So many great things you talked about today, but and I think I know where this is going, but if anybody say we all leave here, we can only remember one thing. What is one thing you want everybody watching this now, 6 months from now, as they leave the program to walk away with and remember?
Treat other people the way you want to be treated. That would be my statement.
Simple as that. All right. With that, we're going to wrap up this installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series, connected by Exchange Networks with Hall of Famer, current executive for the Baltimore Ravens, Mr. Ozzie Newsome. Let's give him one big round of applause. Again, Ozzie, thank you so much for being a part of the program today, giving out time out of your busy schedule. To all of our students here, all the students who watched us through Zoom, everybody who's watched us on YouTube, thank you so much for being a part of the program today. Mr. Newsome, one last time, thank you for everything you've done for the game of football. You will continue to do for the game and everything you've done for us here at the Hall of Fame. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody one more time. So for myself, Mr. Newsome, and all of our staff at the Pro Football